This morning, I had to withdraw as Nick Reiner's counsel. We feel that we have no choice at this juncture but to withdraw as counsel and ask.
Something happened inside the Reiner home that night that no one has fully explained yet. A moment that, according to investigators, came after a long and fragile emotional buildup. A moment that turned a private family struggle into a criminal case. Nick Reiner is now accused in the deaths of his own parents. But the reasons behind what led to that moment remain buried inside medical records, sealed evidence, and a mind that has reportedly battled serious illness for years. And then, just as the case entered its most critical stage, the attorney who had promised to fight for Nick's innocence suddenly stepped away, telling the court he was legally and ethically unable to continue. A defense that once spoke confidently of acquittal was replaced by silence, and a courtroom that expected answers was left with questions. What was revealed that could no longer be argued? What line was crossed that could not be defended? And why did the focus suddenly shift from proving innocence to examining whether Nick is even capable of standing trial? Hello everyone, I'm Chris, and welcome to Chris Talk, the place where thoughts meet honesty and sometimes a little bit of overthinking. Before we begin, do me a tiny favor, please subscribe and press the bell icon so you get notifications for all our new videos, because it really supports my journey and helps this channel grow, and it means a lot to me. Now, let's get straight back to today's topic and dive in together. In the days following the incident, investigators began piecing together a picture that was far more complex than a simple crime scene. According to law enforcement sources, what occurred inside the Reiner home was not a sudden, random act, but the result of a long and unstable psychological struggle that had been building for years. Court filings and medical records referenced in early hearings describe a history of severe mental illness, periods of treatment, lapses in medication, and episodes of disorganized thinking that had intensified in the weeks leading up to the tragedy. Friends and family members reportedly spoke of growing concern, noting changes in behavior, heightened agitation, and moments of emotional disconnection that suggested something was not right. Prosecutors have not publicly detailed a specific motive, and at this stage they have avoided presenting the case as one driven by intent in the traditional sense. Instead, the focus has centered on Nick Reiner's mental condition and the possibility that his perception of reality may have been profoundly distorted at times. According to sources familiar with the investigation, the events of that night allegedly followed a period of emotional escalation, possibly triggered by stress, medication instability, and unresolved family tension. What exactly was said, what was perceived, and how those perceptions translated into action remain questions that are now being examined through psychiatric evaluation rather than conventional interrogation alone. This is where the legal story took a dramatic and unexpected turn. Alan Jackson, a high-profile criminal defense attorney known for aggressively challenging prosecution cases, initially entered the courtroom projecting confidence. He reportedly told associates that the evidence could be contested and that the defense would seek a full acquittal. For a brief moment, the narrative appeared to be heading toward a traditional courtroom battle over facts, forensics, and reasonable doubt. Then, on January 7th, everything shifted. In a short but striking statement before the judge, Jackson announced that he was withdrawing from the case, explaining that he was legally and ethically prohibited from continuing the representation. In legal language, this is among the most serious reasons an attorney can give. Ethical rules require a lawyer to step aside if they become aware of information that would make it impossible to present a defense honestly, or if continuing would place them in violation of professional responsibility. What that information may be has not been disclosed and may never be publicly revealed, but the implication was clear. Something had emerged that fundamentally changed the nature of the defense. Shortly afterward, Jackson reiterated in a media appearance that he could not discuss the details, stating only that ethical obligations prevented him from explaining further. To legal analysts, this suggested that the defense strategy he initially believed in could no longer be advanced in good faith. Whether this involves statements made during evaluation, contradictions in evidence, or material revealed through psychiatric assessment remains unknown, but the result was unmistakable. The case could no longer proceed under the assumption of a straightforward not guilty defense. With Jackson's withdrawal, Nick Reiner was transferred to the public defender's office, and the direction of the case shifted. Court documents indicate that the focus is now on mental competency, criminal responsibility, and whether Nick is legally fit to stand trial. This is a critical distinction. It moves the courtroom discussion away from questions of motive and intent, and toward questions of capacity, perception, and psychological reality. During preliminary hearings, the judge acknowledged the seriousness of the mental health issues involved and ordered comprehensive psychiatric evaluation. The court's language reflected caution, emphasizing that before any determination of guilt or innocence could even be considered, it must first be established whether the defendant is capable of understanding the proceedings and assisting in his own defense. In legal terms, this places the case in a different category entirely, one where treatment, hospitalization, and long-term mental health management may become central factors. Public reaction has been shaped by both shock and confusion. Many people are struggling to reconcile the image of a celebrated Hollywood family with the reality of a case now defined by forensic psychiatry and sealed evaluation. Online, viewers have revisited old interviews and appearances, searching for signs of the internal conflict that may have gone unnoticed. Mental health professionals have cautioned against speculation, reminding the public that schizophrenia and similar disorders can involve breaks from reality that are difficult to comprehend from the outside. What remains undisputed is that the withdrawal of Nick Reiner's original attorney marked a turning point. It signaled that the case was no longer about constructing a traditional courtroom narrative, but about confronting a far more complicated truth, one in which illness, responsibility, and tragedy are tightly intertwined. The court has not drawn final conclusion, and no verdict has been reached. All allegations remain subject to due process. As the investigation continues and psychiatric reports are reviewed, the central questions persist. What exactly happened in those final moments? How did years of mental struggle shape the outcome? And what information surfaced that made a seasoned defense attorney step away, citing ethical limits rather than legal strategy? For now, the case stands suspended between law and medicine, between accountability and compassion, and between a family's public legacy and a private reality that may never be fully understood.